like anti-racism, like feminism, it is a frame that we either include in all of our politics or we fail to do our job. This party has committed to a project that we've called the Green New Deal. I love this project. I love this idea. Precisely because we need to correct the record that the green part and the environmental part is just some set of issues over here and then we've got these issues over there. When in fact, any fight to make this country just, to make this country sustainable, to make this country equal, has to include a conversion of our economy on a fundamental level towards sustainability. When we say we want a Green New Deal, we have to be vigilant about the New Deal part. Because here's the thing. You look at California, we are way ahead on environmental policy, on setting goals for converting our energy sources, to set goals on emissions, all these things. Way ahead of all the other states. We're up in the top tier of environmentalist nations. I just got back from Norway, where I was meeting with colleagues and comrades in the social democratic movement and the environmental movement, and they're all really excited about California. They're like, wow, you guys are doing great shit in California. Come see it. But when judged by economic equality factor, the Gini coefficient, these sorts of things, California is way behind. What this shows is that in America we have, unfortunately, a particular historical genius for making progress while leaving lots of people behind. Think about the original New Deal, a tremendous achievement in humanity, an inspiring set of policies that changed the fundamental ways that our economy works for millions of people. But what did we do in the New Deal? We said, yes, we're going to uplift all workers, but we're going to carve out workers who work in the fields. They're not going to be covered because they're Latino and they're poor migrant whites and they're Filipinos, so we'll leave them behind. We're gonna draw a line around domestic workers, because who are domestic workers? They're women, they're black folks, they're people of color. Let's exclude them from the New Deal. Let's create, through public incentives, a tremendous wealth-generating engine with making sure that people are able to get loans to build houses or buy houses and buy homes. Just such a tremendous, tremendous success for building the middle class in this country. And guess what we did? We made sure that it didn't apply to black folks.
Yep.
With a legacy that we see all the way up to today when you look at the gap between white wealth and black wealth. Why is it? Because when we wrote the New Deal, we wrote it in a racist way. The Green New Deal, we're saying we're going to get it right this time. We're not going to build an economy that is completely and totally built around mass consumption and production because the planet can't sustain that. We're not going to have a housing policy that encourages and subsidizes suburban sprawl connected by freeways with people driving cars on them because we know the planet cannot sustain that way of life. But we cannot, when we know academically or intellectually that converting the energy grid and rehabbing our infrastructure and all these things, we know that it could create millions of high-paying jobs. But that can't be just a rhetorical strategy for shutting up the people that are worried about their livelihoods as we move forward. If you work in the energy industry, if you work as a miner, you're not being paranoid or crazy about being worried about being left behind. From West Virginia to Wales, or the former logging communities here in our state, in Northern California, entire communities have been totally devastated. Thrown aside on the trash heap of history as we move forward. The Green New Deal demands that we do better and that we don't leave people behind. That we actually create jobs first not as an incentive, not as a rhetorical strategy to win a debate, but as something that actually puts people to work in green jobs that allow them to put food on their table, to build their success, to build their families, to build their communities. We have to have a jobs-first Green New Deal. Lastly, let me give you another example of how this issue of the environment, of catastrophe, of existential dread seeps into every debate that we have. I would argue, that when it comes to our economy in California, the number one challenge that we have is housing. Housing, our housing crisis, right? This is what, and I've heard our chairman say this very articulately as a trade union leader. You know, when workers go out and they fight, or upbeat workers, anybody goes out and fights for higher wages, and they win higher wages, like within a year, those wage increases are eaten up by their rent increases. Right? We know that there are people like literally staying, women literally staying, and men, in abusive, toxic relationships because they don't know where the hell they would live if they left. Housing is at the core of so many points of inequality in the state. And as we all know, and all the legislators in the room, Lorena and others know this, right? This is like the third rail now. You go in to the legislature, try to do some good on it, and shit blows up, right? Well, let me offer this. This is a perfect example of why a Green New Deal with an environmental frame and a social justice frame can help us move forward. Right now, the whole housing debate in California is like held hostage by developers. Why? Because we can only imagine solutions to the housing crisis that are about using the market to just like let it solve. The market doesn't fucking do that. Look, we know we can't continue to build these subdivisions and new developments on open space. We've got to preserve open space. We need people to live in a more sustainable, compact way with accessible transit. All of this, we know that that's the kind of lifestyle change, frankly, we need to make as a society to be sustainable. So why aren't we leveraging our public pension funds? Why aren't we fighting to make sure that this gigantic multi-million-dollar new industry of legal cannabis, that the profits from that are going into a bank that is publicly accountable? We can work with the building trades to say, look, y'all, you've got your pension funds, you're investing in things. Let's build public housing in California. Not just for the most vulnerable and desperate and poorest among us, but for people of all walks of life, so that the public has real control over the house, real input, real stake in the housing market. And we can build the kinds of cities of the future that we need for sustainability. We can meet the demand for housing for working people and young families and students and everyone. And we can stop being held hostage by profit-seeking capitalists. So, this is something that, frankly, I don't think anyone else in the country, anyone else in California is placed to lead, besides the Democratic Party. Because it's only here that we have unions, that we have environmental experts and activists, that we have community leaders, people really, into the nitty-gritty of planning in their cities. We have all of the kinds of constituencies and coalitions we need here to lead this movement. But we have to have the will. We have to have the imagination. You have to do the work in your communities of pulling together the coalitions to push for housing policy, to push for transportation policy that's both green and a new deal for working people. You have to lead that. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be people mad at you. You're going to be asked to split babies that seem unsplittable. But no one else is going to do it. A wise man once said that in order to do good works in the world, We have to combine a pessimism of the intellect and an optimism of the will. So let us be skeptical, let us debate things, let us force every one of our potential presidential candidates not just to acknowledge that climate change is a scientific reality like everyone in the world who's not a freaking idiot understands, and how we're going to fix it, what we're going to do. Are we going to do that at the expense of poor people? Are we going to solve the climate crisis but leave millions of people behind? Or are we going to pull everyone forward? We'll only have that with a robust debate and skepticism. And we will only move forward and win if we continue to be optimistic, if we continue to have a will, if we continue to use our imagination, and we continue to organize in our communities. Thank you very much.